So at the start, we have one list that is all unsorted numbers. So starting from the left to the right, we're going to try to find the biggest number, continuing through all the numbers, ensuring that the one you've selected is the biggest. So for this one, there's nothing higher than 10, so we switch that one with the last number of the list. So number 10 becomes part of a sublist that we'll call sorted. Now, from the remaining numbers, or from the other sublist, which we'll call unsorted, we find the next highest number. So for this one, it's going to be 8. This then gets switched with the last number of the unsorted sublist. And number 8 then becomes part of the sorted sublist with number 10. So we continue through this with the rest of the numbers. Once all the numbers are sorted, check that everything is in order, and they are, so it's done. So here's the code for selection sort in Python. At the start, you want to define the task at hand. And then in the brackets, you want to do what your variable is going to be for your list that you want sorted. The next step, for fill slot in range length mylist -1 0 -1. This will run the first loop, count all the numbers in the length of the list, but as it gets sorted, it will count one less from the right of the range as it creates a sublist. So the two sublists that are formed we called sorted and not sorted. So the next time the loop runs, it will only take in consideration the not sorted loop. So max pos equals 0. This states that the maximum value, the max index, starts with the 0 index, but as the code runs through, this might change. So the next for loop we have is for loc in range 1, fill slot +1. So this starts at the first index, which is index 0, which is at this point the max value, and checks the one next to it, and the one next to it, and so on, checking for the highest value of the list. Next is the if statement. The if statement says my list location is bigger than my list max position. So this means if the number is higher than the max position. So if this is true, then the max position will swap with the max location. So the biggest number gets placed at the end of the unsorted list, or the unsorted sublist. So that number is then placed in the sorted sublist. So the next part of the code is responsible for switching the numbers. And the last part, return my list, just returns the sorted list. And yeah, that's it.
So in this bubble sorting algorithm, we start off with a for loop that just makes a range of all the numbers in the list, and every time we pass through the list and sort it, since the biggest number will go to the right end, the range decreases by 1 from the right end every single time. So the second for loop starts by selecting the first item of the list starting from the left, and as we go through the list to sort it, it will just keep on selecting the next item to the right. So in this if statement, it's stating that if the selected item is a bigger number than the item to the selected item's right, then those two items will be switched and their positions will be switched. However, if the selected item is smaller than the object to its right, then it will not be switched. So if the condition of the if statement is met and the initial item is bigger than the second item, then a variable named temp will be the first item, and then the first item will equal to the second item, and then the second item will be temp, so that just means that those two places will be switched. So this second for loop with this if statement will just keep on going through every item of the list, and then at the end of each pass through the list, the biggest number in the list will be sorted to the right. So this list will be sorted multiple times. Every time the largest number will be sorted to the end, right end of the list. And then this algorithm will pass through the list over and over again until everything's sorted, and then finally it will be returned. So for the random sort, first off, we import the random module that we will use later to randomly shuffle the list. And there is also a variable called isSorted that is stated as false, so we automatically assume that the given list is not sorted. So then there is a while loop with the condition that if the is sorted is false, then the loop will run, which the loop will always run because is sorted is always stated to false. And in this loop, there's the r.shuffle my list, which means that this will just randomly shuffle the list in any way the computer generates. So then the is sorted is restated as true. Here, the computer is just, the code is just assuming that the randomly shuffled list is true, and then in the following if statement, we're going to check that. So for the condition of the if statement to run is just that if the length of the list is greater than 1, which it always will be, or else it won't really be a list. So then there's a for loop in this if statement that just selects items from the list starting from the very left, and it will just keep on selecting the next item to the right and to the right and continuing on like that. So then there's a following if statement, and it's saying that if the item that the for loop selected is bigger than the item to its right, then it is not correctly sorted because it wouldn't be in increasing order starting from the left. So then is sorted is set to false again if this condition of the if statement is met, and this basically will restart the while loop, and then it'll shuffle the list again and go through this whole code again. So this code will keep on reshuffling the list in a random way in the while loop until um, all the items in the list are correctly sorted, and that will be confirmed by the last if statement. And if that everything is right, then the list will be returned at the end.